Masonry, like we see on Pinterest, look amazing, and you can build your own masonry using pure CSS. Best of all, it takes just 3 simple steps, and it works across all browsers and devices. Let's start by creating a div class called Masonry Holder, which will hold our individual content blocks. We'll use the column count and column gap properties. I'll explain more on these properties as we go along. Let's create a div class for the individual content blocks, called Masonry Blocks. Set display to inline block, light grey background, 20 pixels padding, margin to 0,015 pixels, auto width and box sizing to border box. We'll also return to the margin property shortly. And that's 2/3 done already. So let's quickly put in the HTML elements. Masonry Holder is our holding container, which has a red border. Masonry Blocks will hold our filler content for the time being. We'll quickly copy-paste the Masonry Blocks divs to fill up our web page, and make a few adjustments to the dummy text for variation. So there you can see our masonry is almost done. Just one more step to make it responsive, and as you might have guessed, we'll be using media queries. In step 3, we create 4 media queries for 4 different widths. Let's set the first to max width 768 pixels, and set the column count for the masonry holder to 1. Then a min width of 769 pixels with a column count of 2, min width 1080 pixels with column count 3, and finally min width 1200 pixels with a column count of 4. And that's it, we're done. It really is that simple. If you've gotten the hang of it, you can stop the tutorial here, but if you'd like to learn more about the code, then please stay with me. So as you can see, there are 3 major parts to creating masonry. I'll replace the dummy content with actual photos and descriptions. And since we're using photos, I'll set the image width to 100%. And there's our fully done masonry, working perfectly across all screen sizes. Let's now get rid of the red border around the holding container and give the body some additional styling. In this example, we can see the holding container occupying the entire page width. If you want the container to be in the center, simply give it a max width of say 1200 pixels and set the margins to 0 and auto. Now, at any screen size wider than 1200 pixels, the masonry will auto-adjust to the center of the screen. The Masonry Holder div uses CSS's powerful column count and column gap properties. The column count property tells the browser to lay out all internal content in 4 columns. If we take it out, the masonry still works, because the media query in step 3 is telling the browser to set the columns according to the window's width. The column gap property tells the browser how much space to leave in between columns. Changing column gap to 0 pushes the vertical edges of the blocks up against each other. Not the horizontal edges, just the vertical ones, since we are dealing with columns. Increasing the column gap creates more space between the vertical edges or columns. To adjust the spaces between the horizontal edges of the masonry blocks, we change the margin bottom property. 15 pixels is the margin's bottom value. Changing all to 0 means no spaces around the individual blocks, and so the top and bottom edges push up against each other. Now, if we also change column gap to 0, our blocks push up on all sides. There's still individual blocks, which we can see if we give them all a red border. It's just another option to present your masonry either with or without gutters along the edges. The underlying functionality of the masonry remains as is. It's also a good idea to set your block's images to 100%, unless you're specifically going for a different result. Finally, the media queries tell the browser how to arrange the blocks in each column according to screen sizes. So you can of course set your own widths and rules here. For example, you might want mobile devices to show 2 columns. The point is, your media queries give you total control to the pixel over how you'd like your masonry to appear across devices. With the core masonry settled, you can keep tweaking your styles till it's project perfect and you're perfectly happy. Remember, We need a holding container that specifies column count and gap. We need internal blocks with the margin bottom specified. And we need media queries for all the different devices we'd like our projects to appear on. The code snippet, together with links to the Planet artworks, is in the comments section below, and if you have any questions, please ask. Keep coding, and CSS you next time.